All right, hi, my name is Daniel Perry with the Williamson Associates Realty, and I'm here with the broker and owner, Ms. Alyssa Williams, and we're going to come together and talk about some home ownership issues and things that you may want to talk about that might be important to you, because as I know things important to me, and I want to try to give a voice to our listeners and customers.
Awesome. Well, homeownership is something that is very powerful, and this month, June, is National Homeownership Month. So we really want to come together and just to chat and talk about things that may be important, or maybe something that's on your mind that you would have questions about that we'll be able to answer.
Yeah. So right now we're going to bring together some of the topics that we can think of. But feel free to like and subscribe and leave comments so that way we can reach you and start talking about some of the things that are important to you as a person, an individual. So the first start us off, one thing I know that I hear all the time is this: you can buy a house with like no money down. And as I'm dealing with customers, I've been hearing that, like, so why do I have to pay for earnest money? Why do I have to do this? Like, why do I have to pay for that? And I just want to just kind of talk. Is that an actual thing? Like, can you buy a house with no money down?
I think that's really, for me, I think that's a myth, because you need some funds, whether or not it's for your earnest money, for your home inspection, to pay your homeowner's insurance, which you usually pay a year in advance. Yes, that there are down payment and closing cost assistance grants available, and some of them even require that you invest something in that, whether or not it's $1,000 or it's 3%. There is some form of investment. Yeah. Even like with veterans, they do have a 0% down, but if they write an offer, typically that there is some form of earnest money. If they have a home inspection, you're paying for the home inspection. And as I mentioned before, when you get ready to close, you have to pay your homeowner's insurance. So there is something, that you're investing. And what if you are over income for the grant programs, or you're purchasing a home that is outside of some of these targeted areas? There again is going to be funds that you're going to have, that you're going to invest in it.
So what is earnest money then? Because like as realtors, we kind of know what earnest money is, but like, how can you explain that to our listeners here so I give them a good idea of like why they need that, and why does it have to come from them?
Okay, earnest money is considered like a security deposit. It's a good faith to the seller that I am writing an offer on your property, and if you accept my offer, I'm going to put forth a percentage down on this. I'm going to get that money back, but again, it's considered as good faith money.
And then I know you mentioned about paying for a home inspection. Now, a home inspection isn't exactly needed for a purchase of the home, but it's one of those things that you just want to have, or?
Well, it's to give you peace of mind, to know what it is that you're buying, what you're investing in. The home inspector is someone that you are hiring to let you know the ins and outs, the ups and downs regarding that property. So they're looking at it from the foundation to the roof to the electrical, the plumbing. They're checking everything out so that you will know this is the home that you're buying. Does it have issues? Can the seller correct some of these issues? Should it be something that you should walk away from? Should you renegotiate with the seller? But that home inspection is letting you know, because as a realtor, we're walking through the property, we're not checking the furnace, we're not checking the water heaters. We could let you know probably the age of it, but the home inspector is actually turning it on, they're taking off cover plates, they're using their tools to let you know that this is the age of it, is burning properly, so forth and so on. So that's why you want to hire a home inspector, because you don't want to purchase something and then all of a sudden, things fall down or fall apart. Yes, you can ask for a home warranty, but that doesn't cover everything, and a home warranty is only good for a year. But if you have the home inspection, the home inspector can again let you know the age of the roof, what the life expectancy is. Should you ask the seller for a home warranty? So if they just replace the roof, then you know that you have 25, 30, maybe 40 years left on that, which is a good thing. But the home warranty may cover some plumbing issues, or it may cover some other things. If they're checking outlets, or they take the cover plate off of the electrical panel, they can let you know if there's some double tap wiring. They can let you know if there's reverse polarity. Again, these are things that we don't see when we're going through a property, just looking at it. The average time that you would spend is about 15 to 20 minutes going in and looking at the property and making a determination if you want to write an offer on that home. But when you have a home inspection, you're going to be there for a couple of hours. So again, that you're looking at more things in depth, and yes, you should have a home inspection.
And just to make sure, because you said that you will be there for a couple of hours, like the buyer themselves won't actually be there, but the home inspector will be there just the entire time. Or would you be there with the home inspector to try to work through some of this stuff?
The home inspector is going to be there. The buyer should also be there, because sometimes the home inspector may want to pull you aside to say, this is what I found, and they're actually showing it to you. There are some home inspectors that might do a video, but actually being there and seeing what happens, that's best. But I know sometimes people, their work schedules may not accommodate that. So doing a video is fine. The home inspectors, they usually take, pictures of things. But again, even if the realtor is there during the inspection, typically the home inspector will say, Lisa, I identified this, or I saw that, and I'm just making sure that you're aware of it. And that kind of helps us, as well. But the home inspector is basically there, I don't want to say protecting you, but they're there because you hired them to be there for them to pinpoint. Not for them to say, this is an error, this is wrong, so forth and so on. They're just letting you know about the whole structure of that property. That's basically what their role is.
And with that, then, can you use that almost like a bargaining chip, but also something like a negotiation tool?
Yes.
So that way, if you do find something that might be substantial, that you can say, hey, I'm willing to buy this property, but this needs to get fixed. Would you mind coming down on the price a little bit?
Correct. Again, you use it as a negotiating tool, but again, it all depends on, the buyer, it depends on the financing, who your lender is, because not bringing the price down is going to satisfy that particular situation. Okay. So it could be that you want the seller to correct the situation prior to closing. So just say, for example, if it's winter time and you can't see the roof covering, or you can't see the grading around the house, so those things you may want in it. But if the home inspector says, well, what I'm seeing here is that you do have 2 layers, but I can't tell, this, that, and the other, you may want to have it further evaluated by a roofing contractor. I am seeing some moisture being detected in the basement. So, but again, you're not going to see if it's frozen, you're not going to see water. But in the springtime, you're going to see the water because the ice is going to melt, and now you're going to see the seepage. So different seasons is also going to have an impact on that home inspection, because again, in the wintertime, they can't test the AC unit because it has to be above a certain degree in order for them to turn it on and to make sure that it's working properly. So hence, again, having that home warranty, that probably would help with that if you have an AC unit. But again, you want to make sure that if there's things that the home inspector is identifying on that home inspection report, that you do reconnect with the seller to say that, yes, I am willing to go through with this if you can take care of this, that, and the other.
Okay.
Or, yes, I am willing to go through with this, but can we negotiate you to give me a credit? Or
Okay.
can we, so again, it all depends, like I
Yeah.
said, what the situation is, but you can, talk with the seller.
Okay. And if there was a situation where there could have been like some no money down, would that affect the mortgage? Because if you're not putting anything down, wouldn't the mortgage of the property actually be higher than if you did put money down?
Yes. Again, if if you're not putting anything down, and you're looking at, if I did put down 3%, if I did put down 5%, how much, is that going to be as far as my, with my monthly payment? So of course, if you're not putting anything down, your payment is going to be a little bit higher than if you were putting, 3%, 5%, 10% down. And in some cases, they may have what is called private mortgage insurance. And you would have private mortgage insurance if you put down less than 20%. But a lot of programs right now, and especially for first-time home buyers, some of these programs don't have the PMI or the private mortgage insurance. So, you're looking at this entire thing. And then that's the thing, too, when we're talking about 0% down, does it have PMI? What are the closing costs? What are the prepaids? What are the other expenses that that I would have? So sometimes you may not have to come up front with the funds, but it's going to be on the back end.
And so, if I'm understanding right, if you're coming under the 20%, and say like you're trying to go to like 3% for I'm guessing for like average new home buyer,
Mm-hmm.
Are you almost guaranteed to have private mortgage insurance?
I really wouldn't say that it's almost guaranteed to have it, but if you are, like I said, if you're first-time home buyers, and especially with clients that we work with, we do try to suggest that you go through some form of home buying education, whether or not it's online or whether it's with one of the community-based organizations that provide home buying education. Because there's not only are you getting information with regards to the home buying process, having that education, it also lends to you being eligible for the down payment and closing cost assistance. Now, some lenders do require that you do the home buying education in order for you to even get their financial assistance, okay? But knowing, like on a conventional loan, or if you were going with FHA, FHA does not have what is called the private mortgage insurance, but they have mortgage insurance premium. And that doesn't go away. But private mortgage insurance, once you, like I said, have that 20% equity, it will eventually fall off. But you would have to check with your lender to see whether or not if the program that you're looking at, do you have to have private mortgage insurance? Okay. And even when you sit down with the lender, they should basically try to give you options. But those options are also going to be based on your credit score, your employment history, things of that nature, like how long have you been on your job, what is your credit score? Of course, if you have an 800 credit score or greater, it allows more options that you would have. But if your credit score is 640 or 660, it limits what options that you might have. But you have to also look at the lender that you're working with. What type of programs do they offer? Because not all lenders utilize WIDA, not all lenders do FHA loans. They may just have an in-house conventional product for you. So you would have to check with that. Some credit unions are different than your financial institutions. So again, you have to weigh out different options with different lenders.
Okay. But ultimately, though, you've never really heard of like buying a house completely with no money down.
Okay, you said ultimately have I heard. I mean, I've heard of it a lot. But I think that some buyers get surprised when someone says to them, you need to have this money, or you need to come up with that money. And then they're kind of like shocked because, well, I didn't know that I need that because I thought that it was a no money down. So there are programs that state that yes, you can go in with no money down, but I would say on the safe side is that you should still be saving money, and not only just for the down payment and closing costs, but once you buy that home, you're going to have expenses, and again that is going to be your home. So then what happens if the water heater goes out? If you don't have a home warranty, what happens if the AC goes out? So you want to set yourself up that you are saving and that you do have money available. What we call cash poor. You don't want to buy the home and now you don't have any cash for if in the event that something happens. So you want to make sure that you have enough money. And I know, like, even for the banks, when you close on a loan, they would eat what they call reserves. They want to see you to have at least a month or 2 months, some of them may even 3 months, reserves somewhere, so that once you buy the home, and if you run into a situation, there's a reserve there to help you, but you don't want to just rely on that reserve. So just say, for an example, I'm pre-approved for $240,000, but I see a property that's $245. I'm gonna negotiate with them to get it down to the $240. Yay, you did that, but that's taking you to the max. Yeah. So even though you may want to do that, and if you are financially sound, and if you can do that, God bless you. Go ahead and do that. But just because you see something, you're pre-approved for $240, doesn't mean that you have to go to the max. You want to be able to live comfortably, to be able to go out on a Friday night if that's what you want to do. You just don't want to work from paycheck to paycheck just to make a mortgage payment.
And then how much money should someone, on average, set aside for purchasing a home? Just so I give like a ballpark figure. If they were looking at buying a home, or they're trying to get into that whole space of, I'm sick of renting, I want to own my own home now, but how much should I have on me for a typical home that's in the Wisconsin, Milwaukee area?
Oh my God, that's just such an open question.
It is.
Yeah,
it's pretty open for sure.
And I would say that because there's no, I don't want to say right way, wrong way. And again, it really depends on you. And how are you saving? Are you using your 401k? Like, have you been working for the last 10 to 15 years and you've set money aside in your 401k? Now you want to pull funds out of that in order for you to purchase a home. Which is a good thing. Again, that's money that you saved and that you set aside for that. Am I taking $50, $25, $100 out of my check a month? Am I saving and putting that aside?
Yeah.
Or am I getting my tax returns at the end of the year or beginning of the year, and I have $3,000, I've taken that and I put that into my savings? So it all depends on the individual, because there's, like I said, it's so open. It's like so many different ways that you can go about, saving and doing things. And fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes things, they come up. You may have a car issue or something like that. So now the money that I was saving for, the down payment, now I got to fix my car. So I'm kind of like starting all over again. And say that you haven't, you lost track of savings. There's some lenders that have what is called a credit builder loan, or they have, I don't know the name of the accounts, but then they have accounts where you can set up on a monthly basis, and at the end of the year they have matching funds with that.
Yeah.
So you can look at putting something like that aside, to kind of help you. But again, if you're looking at, and like I said, the savings capacity is going to be based on what your affordability is, which is your income and your debts, to determine what your mortgage payment is going to be. Sometimes people, they feel, well, if I'm paying $900 a month for rent and I'm doing okay, I should be able to afford a mortgage at that payment. But you also have to look at that if the furnace went out, you're calling the landlord to say, hey, my furnace just went out, can you fix that? So even though you're paying $900 a month, you're not worried about that furnace because you're calling the landlord. So if you're paying $900 a month for rent, but if you're paying that $900 for a mortgage, do you have the funds set aside to call to have a furnace guy to come out and fix it? And that's basically what you would have to look at. Yeah.
So you're typically saying that people just have to work on their budgeting prior to looking at buying a home, because there are so many extra expenses that will be on your plate at that level of just owning a home.
Right. I mean, and that's not to say that it's going to happen right away. Again, if you say, for an example, you purchase a home that was renovated, you had the inspection, the home inspector said everything was fine. You've been in this home 5 years, you've been in this home 10 years. You have now paid down some of your mortgage, but yet you built some equity. Okay? So that equity is actually going to you, and not that you're making the payments for rent, and then now you want to buy something, but you really don't have the savings or anything like that. So are you paying, and that goes back to that rental. I'm paying $900 a month for rent, so I should be able to pay $900 for a mortgage. But is that $900 along with everything else that you have, your car payment, your student loan, all of these other things, because that's what the lender is going to take into consideration with regards to your debt to income ratio. And we met with a number of lenders and we talked about the debt to income ratio, because they're taking a certain percentage of your net income, of your gross income, to determine what your mortgage payment should be, or what the percentage would be, not to go over, like just saying 42% of your debt to income with regards to what you're paying for your mortgage and how much you're paying out for debt, to determine what should be a comfortable mortgage for you. And then based on that, then they would say, this is how much you would need for down payment, this is how much you would need for closing costs. Do you have that now, or is it something that, now that I know, this is what I need to start saving and working towards?
Yeah, absolutely. And then what happens if you do get a home, no money down, but the value of the home then also goes down? What happens then?
As far as what? And I know, like, some people, I'm not really quite sure what you mean by that, but
because like you purchase a home that you basically put anything down for it, but in a time where, like, house prices lose some value because of what's going on in the world, how does that affect you going forward then? Because you basically essentially lost value, but you really didn't.
I mean, it's an investment, and just like the stock market, it goes up and it goes down. So I just, if I invest in a property, I am hopeful that, again, as I make my payments, that my next door neighbor and the people, around me, that they're doing the same thing. But unfortunately, things happen. Individuals lose their job, or so forth and so on, and they're not keeping their property up, and then you're going to see, as far as the value is actually going to come down. So, and that's when you're talking about value, it has to be It's something that's going around in the economy or in your neighborhood, in your county, in your city that you live in. So something is happening that's driving, the value down.
Yeah.
But if you are maintaining, if you're keeping your property up, if your neighbors is keeping their properties up, the value is going to go up.
Okay.
But say that I just bought this home and in 3 years, like I said, the value has started to go down. Will I walk away, from my home?
Yeah.
And again, I've been in my property for over 35 years and I've seen the value go up and down, but my mortgage payment stayed consistent.
Okay.
Because I had a 30-year mortgage. And even though the value has gone up and down, my mortgage payment stayed the same.
Okay.
So I'm still in a comfortable position, to make my mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And I know that in certain situations where, again, I'm gonna go with this $900. So if I, as long as I'm, continuing on with my job, and say for an example that the job that I was in, I just got a raise. So I'm making more money, but my mortgage payment is still the same. Yeah, that mortgage payment isn't changing. The only time that it's going to change is if, the special assessments or something like that come up, or if your homeowner's insurance, if that bill goes up. But as far as the principal and interest on that loan, that's going to stay the same. So as long as I can still maintain my mortgage payment and the situation improves, the economy improves, my mortgage is not my mortgage payment, but my assessment or the value of my property is going to
Increase.
increase.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're not hurting yourself. And again, your home, your house is your home, but it's also an investment.
Yeah.
So, like I said, even if the economy starts to shift or things go down, or let's say for an example, if when you bought the home, you bought it at 7%, the interest rate was at 7%, and say that the interest rate went down to 5%, you can refinance that home and then reduce your mortgage payment. So then that will allow you, again, more funds, if you want to do that, or you can take roll it back in and then pay your mortgage down more. So that could be an option. And say that you bought it at 7% and now the interest rates have gone up to 8 and 9%. You're still at 7%. You're still at, like a good thing. When you're talking about renting versus homeownership, say that seller decides to sell that property and they say that you now have to vacate. And now where I've been here for 10 or 15 years paying $900, I'm looking at the rental market and the market is saying $1,200, $1,500 a month. Yeah, I was doing good paying $900.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if you own your home, like I said, that $900 is basically going to stay there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have about No Money Down so far. So unless you have any other gems or anything like that for our listeners to get anything off of, I mean, that's all.
I think that we went from no money down to various, a little bit of everything. But one of the things or the takeaways, with regards to this is, savings and budget yourself. Know where you are. And, if homeownership is an option, if it's a dream for you, you can get in contact with us, get in contact with one of the community-based organizations. You can meet with a lender, find out where you are, and then you can start setting the tone that way. Start building, your future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today, and I greatly appreciate it. And again, this is a Home Buying Made Simple with Williamson Associates Realty. We'll see you again.
Bye.